The following Monday, I took what I had made for her. I put 2 strips on the floor, the exact place where Dr. Dr. Grumpky's feet would be placed when she came into the classroom. My classmates seemed a little nervous. "Don't worry, guys. This time you'll see how well my farty mix works on her." The bell rang and the party started. I heard her footsteps coming closer, and they stopped at the door. Dr. Dr. Grumpky opened the door wide and stepped in with both her feet exactly on my farty mix strips. In her right hand was her weapon, the scary bamboo stick. She gave us a searching look for a few seconds and frowned as usual. Everybody held their breath. That's when we must not move even 1 inch. We had our textbook on the left side of the desk and the pencil and the eraser on the right. Once Matt put those on the other way around because he was left-handed and the other way was better for him. When Dr. Dr. Grumpky saw that, she grabbed his book and other things on the desk and threw them out of the window. Even his desk flew out of the window. Then she gave him special behaviour management, which means she punished him. She told him to kneel down at the back of the classroom and hold his chair high, with his arms straight up during the whole class. Poor Matt. He was crying half of the time, and his arms were shaking. Whenever his arms were slightly bent, Dr. Dr. Grumpky poked him in the belly with her weapon and said, "Arms straight up." I could see his blood vessels bulging out in his thin arms. So nobody moved while she was looking around. Perfect. The farty mix would be stuck on her shoes then. When she put 1 step forward, I could hear the sound. And another step. She stopped, looked around, and yelled, "Who is it? Who's making the sounds? It's absolutely disgusting." Nobody answered, of course. It was Dr. Dr. Grumpky herself that was making those disgusting sounds. Then she started walking towards the podium, and my farty mix worked just perfectly. Surprised and embarrassed, she jumped up and down and span around, which made the sounds even louder and louder. The farty mix was like chewing gum, but special. I took an idea from my dad's experiment on that GAS stuff, which is confidential. You know what I mean. So I can't tell you the whole thing, but I'll tell you a bit about how it worked. It had some special ingredients that breathed air in and made farting sounds as the air came out when it was pressed. So, the more she walked or jumped, the more and louder the sounds she made. Someone started giggling, and all my classmates couldn't help laughing. They clapped their hands and drummed their desks. I laughed so hard my stomach hurt. Dr. Dr. Grumpky ran out of the classroom, still making sounds. All my classmates jumped up and down and shared high fives. They were all excited about my very successful invention, farty mix, until she came back about half an hour later in different shoes. When the door opened wide, everybody stopped what they were doing and gasped, "Back on your seat!" Everybody moved quickly and sat. Some of them were shaking in fear. "Who did this stupid thing? Is it you? You? Or you?" She yelled at us, poking one by one in the belly with her weapon, the scary-looking bamboo stick. Then she stopped at my desk and squinted at me. "Of course it's you. I knew it was you, you little brat." Dr. Grumpky gently tapped her weapon onto her palm, and her malicious smile appeared on her face. Scared and worried, my classmates looked at me, holding their breath. I kept my mouth shut and saw her smile. "Well, well, now you'll see the consequence of what you did." Then she yelled at my ear so closely that I jumped out of my seat. "Stand up, you little brat! You need some behaviour management right now. Go next door, grab the bucket in the cleaner's room and fill it with water. Fill it up full, you little brat." I did what I was told. The sink in the cleaner's room was so deep that I struggled with taking the bucket out of the sink after filling it with water. Although it was just next door, the bucket was so heavy I spilt a bit of the water on the floor when I carried it to the classroom. Dr. Grumpky said, "You can't even manage to carry it here. Ha! It's going to be really exciting to see you kneel down holding the bucket up high. Hurry up and start now." I knelt down and held the bucket straight up high. It was so heavy that soon my arms hurt. As I started shaking, the water flowed over my head and my arms. I tried not to move, but couldn't help it. I was getting wetter and wetter. Half an hour later, I was almost crying. It was really painful. Then I heard Dr. Grumpky coming toward me. "How do you feel? Still proud of yourself with your stupid experiments that only gave you this special treatment after all?" I saw her malicious smile still on her face, and my book in her hand. My arms hurt so much that I almost said sorry to her and asked for forgiveness, but I didn't. And I had no idea what she was up to with my book. She seemed pleased to see me wet, struggling with holding the bucket and biting my lips not to cry. Then she looked down at me and whispered in my ear, "You're a failure, just like your dad." Then she stood straight up and dropped my book in the bucket. All my classmates gasped. The water flowed all over my body, and I dropped the bucket. I bit my lips so hard that I was bleeding. I didn't cry. It was the water flowing over my face. "Ha ha ha! Look at you! You are a totally wet little brat." "Ha ha ha!